Okay. Welcome to the class. Today we'll be discussing on cerebrovascular disorders. That is part 4 for part of it. The focus is on aphasia. Huh? Aphasia. Huh? Some students are trying to enter. Okay. Aphasia. Today we'll discuss. Huh? So before getting into aphasia is a bit the most confused topic in CNS. So for that we'll go a bit into details of aphasia. Can anybody tell me what is aphasia? Can anybody suggest what is aphasia? Okay.
Speech difficulty.
Yes.
Problem in speech.
Problem of speech. What about if there is a muscle paralysis, disarticulation? For example, paralysis of muscles of face is there. Then also patient may not be able to speak now. Either paralysis of the 12th nerve can cause tongue problems, movement of the tongue. Then also there could be, what is aphasia then? It is not problem of speech. It is a problem with the language. It is a problem with the language. It is a disease which affects the language. Huh? Huh? It is not regarded due to the articulation part. It is basically language. The language consists of both comprehension and what, and also word output, both, and there has to be connection between these two. And further, so these are the three main components. There are many more components. So there has to be comprehension, there has to be word, proper word and formation of sentences, then that forms language. It is not just the sound production. Sound production issue can come with what? It can come with the dysarthria, also can have that. Even paralysis can also have that. Now, so aphasia is actually impairment in language affecting both production and comprehension of speech and ability to further it involves this also, read and write. Language impairment, even this also it involves. So aphasia includes comprehension of speech, word output of speech, reading and also writing. Apart from paralysis, here I am not discussing about paralysis. Paralysis doesn't form the component of aphasia. In fact, okay, if there is a paralysis of facial muscles, you may not be able to assess the aphasia, at least motor part of it. Okay, properly. But there are some tricks to do it, but some difficulty may be found while assessing it. Okay. So network of language. Thus, this is the brain. Suppose, okay, I'll draw the brain here. And this is the brainstem is here. I'm not bothered about brainstem here. This is the brain. So this is what? Which lobe? What is this lobe? What is this lobe? What is this lobe? This is frontal lobe. This is parietal lobe. This is occipital lobe. This is temporal lobe. Can you get this? Okay. Broca's, there is what is this? Sylvian fissure. Here, the Broca's area comes somewhere here. Okay. In here, it comes here. Maybe even bit down. It comes here. This is the motor part where the Broca's or motor aphasia. If there is a damage to this produces motor aphasia. I'll come to that. What is the motor aphasia? I'll come to that. I lost the diagram. Okay. So this is the brain. Okay. This is Broca's area and this is Wernicke's area. In fact, the motor area is well defined, but Wernicke's area is less well defined. In fact, it is more widely distributed. There is a lot of networks for Wernicke's area. Huh? And it is on the dominant hemisphere. What is dominant hemisphere? And usually in the right-handed people,
The right-handed person have a
left.
left
What?
and
Ah,
left-handed person.
yeah, around 80 to 90% of right-handed people, left hemisphere is dominant. In left-handed people, 60% still have left hemisphere as dominant. Okay, so that means most commonly the dominant hemisphere in majority is left hemisphere. You should remember this. It can be in MCQ. Okay, so same thing. Network of the language area is on the dominant hemisphere. That is 90% of the right-handed and 60% of the left-handed. It is still on the left side, left hemisphere. Okay. Now Broca's area is lies where? As I told you, where it lies? Here. This is temporal lobe. This is lateral sulcus. Here, Broca's area is there. This is parietal area, Wernicke's area. So, Broca's area is inferior frontal gyrus. Here. Okay. Wernicke's area is a parieto-temporal junction. This junction is there. This is temporal lobe, parietal junction. In the posterior aspect, the Wernicke's area is supposed to be there. But however, the Wernicke's area is less well defined. In fact, it is most widely distributed. You should know that. Huh? Then that's about these areas. They may ask you these questions. The aphasia should be diagnosed only when there is a defect in formal aspects of language, such as word finding, word choice, comprehension, spelling, grammar, repetition. So many things are there. So these are the part of aphasia. Even reading and writing also comes under here. But however, these are the most important thing here. Now, how to do a clinical examination of the aphasia? So, when you examine a patient for aphasia, you have to look for naming of the object. For example, show him pen. Ask him, show him the pen and tell him what is it. Ask him what is it. Can he name that? That is naming. Then spontaneous speech. Whether he's able to do spontaneous, that is fluency. Whether the speech is fluent. Sufficient volume, sufficient words in sentences, the proper melody, word output, those things has to be seen. Are they spontaneously they're coming? Is there any issue like that? Whether the patient can understand what you tell him, that is comprehension has to be checked. And also give him simple words or strings, that small words you give him, ask him to repeat. Don't give him tongue twisters. Tongue twisters for not for checking aphasia. For example, Constantinople, hippopotamus, those things. If you give that, they are actually not. If you don't such words, if you ask him to repeat, you don't check aphasia there. You will be actually checking dysarthria. So dysarthria, tongue twisters can be tried. Whereas aphasia, you should give simple words to repeat. That is repetition. To check repetition. Reading and writing. Reading has to be loud. Because reading loud requires comprehension and see the Wernicke's area is there. First patient has to read, comprehend, then connect himself to the Broca's area, then produce output. So reading loud. The reading has to be loud. If the patient reads but just understands, not loud reading, in his memory, slow reading, then he could be having a cut here. It could be just conduction aphasia could be there. That's why you should ask the patient to read loud. Okay. And ask him to check writing. No. Now let us learn these terms. There are some terms which you need to know for understanding aphasia. So what is anomia and paraphasia? Can anybody tell me? Roshan,
Sir,
tell me. Can anybody tell me what is uh, anomia? You can read there written defect in naming. So that means you show an object. You show him a mug. Mug. Ask him what is this? You show him pen. Huh? What is this? Pen. Something. You ask him to name the object. Huh? So if he is having a problem in naming, then it is anomia. The anomia are two types. One is one way and two way. That is one way is actually retrieval based. Here he cannot name but can point to the object. So, for example, if you give him pen, ask him what is it, he may not be able to tell it is pen. He will not be able to tell the name. So, but if you ask him, if you keep some objects in front of him, ask him to point to the pen there. He will be able to point it. That is one-way anomia. Then two-way anomia, that is comprehension based and semantic. Here, both he cannot point and name. Both are there. That is two-way anomia. Then let us go to what is paraphasia. Here, paraphasia, they can ask these MCQs. You should know that. Paraphasia are circumlation of description of objects. Here, if you give him a pen, he will call it something nearby object. For pen, he may say pencil. Okay. For computer, he may say phone. Something like very nearby, something like he can do. Such mistakes. Nearby things. Both. So such a change is there. It is semantic. For PC, he may say laptop like that. Very simple. Such things he can do. That is semantic, which are nearby. Phonetic. Phonomic means for plentil for pencil. Instead of pronouncing pencil, he may put it as plentil. That is phonomic paraphasia. These are the two types of paraphasia can be observed in a patient with aphasia. Spontaneous speech, that is the fluency. Here, how do you see the fluency? The output volume, how loud he speaks, phrase of length, and melody, how sweetly he is speaking. Those things are fluency, you check. Then non-fluence means here the sparse filled, sparse, halting, average length of the word, sentence or the speech is not more than 4 words. Small sentences. It is grammar is wrong. Lot of grammar problems will be there. Tenses, suffix, prefix, plurals, all mistakes will be there. That is non-fluent speech. You may see this. Comprehension. Now, how to check a comprehension? For checking comprehension, you should put simple sentences, maybe leading questions. Your forensic medicine, don't ask leading questions. But you need to ask leading questions here to check comprehension. You are not prompt. In fact, you prompt him so that he picks up the word and puts it out. Here, actually, you are just checking whether person is understanding. There, in a forensic medicine, you are not supposed to give a leading questions. But here, for checking comprehension, go for leading question. Simple answer should be there. Like yes or no. Can dogs fly? He has to tell yes or no. That's all. Does it snow in summer? We should ask. Does it snow in Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh? Such things can be asked. The patient may answer it. Simple questions where more or less like simple leading questions you have to ask. And ask him to point to the objects, which like functional aspect you can ask. Where is the source of illumination in the room? They have to point out to the light source. Such things can be checked for comprehension. This is because the patient is not able to speak. This can be tried. Because you need to have a low amount of small answers, because in fact you are trying to differentiate between motor and sensory aphasia. Because if there is also motor and sensory, these problems will come. So that you should have a leading questions where the answer is small. Basically, you need to check whether the person is understanding. Repetition. Yeah, I told about this. Repetition, for checking the repetition of words, the small strings of words should be given, not complex one. Complex one. Can anybody tell me what is echolalia? What is echolalia? Okay, I'll come to that. Okay. Echolalia means just go on repeating the words unnecessarily. Some word he picks up while he hears somebody nearby him. They are uttered some word and he goes on repeating that word. Like mad. That is echolalia. There sometimes it can happen in aphasias. I'll come to that. I'll show that. So that is here. That is different between repetition. Repetition means you ask him to repeat a word, he will repeat and tell. Fine. That is for repetition checking. Here I told you tongue twister should not be there. These words hippopotamus, Irish constabulary, those things. Such things are for better for dysarthria, not for aphasia. So simple words are to be given. Now checking about reading. Here reading is assessed by, for the difference of reading, loud. Patient has to loudly read, not because you need to understand that you're not checking comprehension here. You are checking reading. He has to loud, because if he just reads it in his mind, it can be you'll end up checking only comprehension. But reading aspect, both comprehension and putting it out. That's what is complete reading. So you should ask the patient to read loud. What is alexia? Alexia describes inability to either read aloud or comprehend written words. So here loud reading. Alexia components are, it should be loud reading. Loudly has to read out. Agraphia means, what is agraphia? Spelling mistakes. Spelling mistake, acquired spelling mistakes. Once you learned spelling mistakes, many of us have this, I believe. Sometimes even I do have bad spellings. Agraphia. That is spelling mistakes. But that is a disease, not like you don't remember. Spellings are different. Now, agraphia or dysgraphia is used to describe acquired defect in spellings. Now, let us go to somebody has joined. Okay. Let us go to Wernicke's aphasia. What is Wernicke's aphasia? It is motor or sensory?
Sir, sensory, sir.
Yeah, it is sensory aphasia. So sensory means it is a issue with the comprehension. Comprehension is impaired for spoken and written words and sentences both. Patient cannot. Wernicke's aphasia. And fluent and voluminous but uninformative. This is fluent speech is there. He will keep on talking something, but you will not understand. But a patient of motor aphasia, he may have a not fluent speech, but you will understand what he's telling. But patients of Wernicke's aphasia, he'll speak too much, but you never understand what he's telling. Got it?
Yes,
This
sir.
aphasia is fluent but uninformative. In a motor aphasia, it is non-fluent, but you can understand what he's telling, because somehow he'll see to it that you come to know what he's telling. With a bit of struggle, he'll be able to do it. But here we keep on telling, and these people don't have insight. They won't know they have the disease. Sometimes they will become very angry because they're talking something which rest of the world doesn't understand. They get irritated because of that. Whereas in a patient of motor aphasia, they would know that they have got a problem. So these people go into depression, but these people go into agitation. They become Wernicke's aphasia becomes agitated because they get irritated because nobody is understanding them and they don't have insight. They can't understand their problem. A patient of motor aphasia is depressed, is tearful because he knows his problem. That's why he's depressed and he will be tearful. But this person is quarreling like. They get irritated because because they'll be thinking they're telling simple things. Why these people are not let understanding what I'm telling? Like that. That's the problem here. Fluent, voluminous, and uninformative. Highly paraphasic. Yeah, they'll tell something wrong words, new words they'll invent. Background speech will be there. You cannot understand what they're telling. Huh? Patient may not realize his condition is incomprehensible. Huh? Huh? Also, the severe stage. That's why they lead to all sort of issues. This problem will start. Rapidly closes, because these people become irritated. They close their eyes, move, sits. They're not quite rolls in the bed. They're violent. That is the behavior of Wernicke's aphasia. And these things can be used to differentiate from deafness and psychiatric disease and malingering. A patient who is imitating Wernicke's aphasia, and if he is malingering, he won't be agitated. Like that. And repetition, naming, reading, writing are all impaired. And this is the inferior division of metacerebral artery embolism can cause this disease. Because and there are many primary aphasias where the lesion is not limited to this paratotemporal lobe there. It could be somewhere else. That's why Wernicke's area, in fact, some part of the Broca's area does have components of sensory part. So that's why Wernicke's area is less well defined, unlike Broca's area, which is well defined. You should know that. Now, let us go to Broca's aphasia. Here, speech is non-fluent, labored, interrupted, many words, word finding, pauses, and usually dysarthric. There will be issues like this. They will be struggling to give out what they're telling. See, speech is telegraphic, pitchy, and quite informative. See here, this is informative speech. You can understand. See the sentence. Something is like taken from Harrison. I see the daughter. You can understand. Actually, it's talking about doctor. Doctor sent me. These are all words. Maybe it's telling of the Boston here. Go to hospital. Doctor kept me bedside 2 days. These are all long words, but you are able to understand. He was able to 2 days and sent home. That's what you can understand from this. But similar things by Wernicke's people, you cannot understand what it's telling. Output may be reduced or grunt single word yes or no. Yeah, because patients may have this yes or no question. To understand comprehension, you should ask leading questions. To check comprehension. If they tell in yes or no, that means he's understanding. Comprehension of spoken language is intact. Insight into the disease is known. So that's why people are tearful, frustrated, and profoundly depressed. Now let us understand something about conduction aphasia. This is temporal lobe. This is Broca's. This is Wernicke's. There are arcuate fibers which are running between, and if these are interrupted, we end up getting conduction aphasia. So speech is fluent here. Yeah, speech is fluent because Broca's area is intact. Wernicke's area. This is Broca's. This is Wernicke's. These are the fibers. Now, speech is fluent. Yeah, this is intact. Yes. Phone paraparesis will be there. And they'll be using phonic paraparesis. What is phonic paraparesis? What is semantic paraparesis? I told you this. Plentil for pencil. Pencil for pen. This is, if the patient says pencil for pen, it is semantic. For pen, for pencil, if you say plentil, it is phonemic. Phonic paraparesis will be there in conduction aphasia patients. Comprehension of spoken language is intact. Yes, there is. They can understand. But the major issue is in the repetition, because repetition needs Wernicke's aphasia. Cut here. Reading loud is impaired here. They can understand, but that's why for checking reading, you should ask the patient to loudly read. That's important here. Spelling is impaired. Spellings can be there. What is the problem of spelling is called? What is it?
Dysgraphia.
Dysgraphia. Graphia means all these things are diagrams. Here is dysgraphia means spelling here. Remember that? Huh? They can throw MCQ on that. Huh? What dysgraphia means? Huh? Hmm? It is a problem of spelling. Hmm? Most of us have it, I think so. Our mother tongue is not English, na. So we are forgiven for that. Hmm? Hmm. So reading aloud is impaired because comprehension is intact. This is the reason here. Usually CV of cerebrovascular accident in temporopalatal and dorsal perisylvian region that causes this. That is because these arcuate fibers between Broca's and Wernicke's areas are cut here. Occasionally transient. A patient of Wernicke's aphasia, with time he will end up with becoming conduction aphasia. Hmm? The connections will be there, so they will start understanding, but they'll not be able to repeat. Hmm? Hmm? Okay. This is the table which I taken of Harrison only. Now there are the major I discussed Wernicke's, Broca's, conduction. Huh? I told. Now let us try to understand little by rest of the things. In Wernicke's aphasia, you expect comprehension. What about the comprehension? Comprehension is impaired in Wernicke's. Huh? Impaired. Huh? Comprehension is impaired, and repetition is also impaired because patient cannot understand the point of repetition doesn't come. The problem is in the understanding itself here. The first gateway, there is a problem. So in Wernicke's aphasia, what do you expect? Because the comprehension is impaired, they cannot repeat. And naming is impaired. Naming. What is naming impaired means? Anomic. Or paranomic, and fluency is there. Large output, nobody can understand. Talking irrelevant like Wernicke's. Now let us go to Broca's. Here, Broca's comprehension is preserved. Or some grammar issues can be there. The comprehension can be is preserved. They can understand what you're telling. But repetition is also impaired here. Why? Because although they understand, that they cannot have aphasia. They can somebody. Okay. There is because the page is aphasia. Even if he understands, he cannot have word output. Due to that, the motor part or word output is at a problem. So repetition is impaired here in Broca's aphasia. So repetition in both Wernicke's and Broca's, it is at defect. Remember this important point. Wernicke's and Broca's repetition is impaired. Remember that. And naming is impaired here, and fluency, yeah, decrease, but you can understand. Broca's. Now global, everything is gone. Both impaired, everything is gone. That is global. Gaya comes there. Then conduction. Now let us come to conduction. These people can understand. These people can understand, but the repetition is, what is this? Impaired. Fluency is preserved here. This is motor part, na? This is sensory part. So what is there? The conduction aphasia. What do you expect? The repetition is gone. Both comprehension and fluency are there. That is conduction aphasia. So in conduction aphasia, you got motor part problem, issue is not there. Sensory part issue is not there. Only there is a issue of repetition. Let us come to something like transcortical, anterior and posterior, non-fluent and fluent otherwise. Okay. Transcortical anterior means it behaves like a motor aphasia with the preserved repetition. In motor aphasia, what I told, repetition is gone, whereas in transcortical, it is motor aphasia with preserved repetition. Similarly, posterior, Wernicke's aphasia with the preserved repetition is transcortical. That's how you have to remember this chart. Trick I'm telling. In isolation aphasia, there is a echolalia. And anomic means patient cannot name a name. Rest are all preserved. See, everything is preserved. Anomic aphasia is there where only name but rest are all preserved. He can repeat, he can understand everything. Pure word deafness, impaired only for spoken language, but reading is preserved here. If you give them, ask him to read loud, he will be able to. Impaired, yeah, sometimes yeah, reading loud. If this is gone, they can't read loud, but they can understand. If this is there, yeah, in pure word deafness, they can't read loud. So impaired only for spoken language, preserved. Maybe they will be able to write. Yes, we'll have to find out this. Pure alexia means they can't read. Rest all preserved. Impaired in reading, but they can understand the what? Spoken language. Rest is all preserved here. Please read, check this chat and try to understand more about it. Now, let us solve some MCQs on aphasia. Motor aphasia refers to defect in where? Motor aphasia, otherwise also called as Broca's. Broca's aphasia. Where is the defect? It is peripheral speech apparatus. That means what are the parts of peripheral vocal cords, muscles of the mouth and
Verbal
face?
expression.
There is not disease of this. Yeah.
Verbal expression.
Verbal expression. Yeah. Putting it out. Auditory comprehension. This is preserved. Verbal comprehension. These things are auditory
comprehension is
both
preserved.
are same actually. Actually, these choices are same. They don't have any much different. The verbal expression.
Comprehension is preserved.
Yeah, this is the answer. Refers defective verbal expression. That is the answer. Lesions in inferior frontal gyrus causes. So, where is the what is this inferior frontal gyrus? Yeah, Broca's aphasia. Otherwise, motor aphasia. Otherwise, also called as Broca's. So, this is the answer. So, defective articulation, no, doesn't cause. Incomprehensive written language, no, this is not the one. Then incomprehensive spoken language, that is not there. This is word deafness. This is what is this? I just showed you this. Word deafness and alexia. Incomprehensive written language means alexia. Spoken is pure word deafness. All of the following are true about Broca's aphasia except lesions lie in the frontal lobe.
Repetition is preserved.
Yeah, very good. So in a Broca's aphasia, if this is preserved, we would have called it as what? Transcortical anterior aphasia. Okay.
Comprehension is preserved.
Yeah. If it was this also preserved, repetition was preserved in this all with all these things, we would have called it as transcortical anterior aphasia. Now I'll come to this. Broca's aphasia, lesion is in the frontal lobe. Yeah, inferior frontal gyrus. Fluency impaired. Yeah, they have got a bad fluency, but you can understand what they are telling. In one case, fluency is good, but you can't understand what they are telling. So neologism is upset. Yeah, this is a feature of Wernicke case. Okay. Repetition is preserved. So repetition is impaired. If this was preserved, we would have called as transcortical motor aphasia or anterior aphasia. Okay. Aphasia affecting the arcuate fibers is called. State answer.
Conduction, sir.
Yeah, conduction. Yeah, that's the answer. Patient being evaluated for aphasia is unable to repeat sentences. Now he has got a repetition issue. So transcortical things are out. However, the patient is effortless and melodic. Yeah, that means fluency of speech is there. So even Broca's is out. There are frequent errors in the word choice and obvious difficulty in comprehension. Yeah, I state on the point now. Comprehension is gone. So more likely it is you're dealing with Wernicke aphasia. The
Wernicke, sir.
remainder of the patient neurological examination is normal. The damage to which area of the brain would be the account for this. Now, where is the Wernicke's area? Loosely defined, of course, posterior temporal and parietal lobes. Yeah, posterior part. Anteriorly, you would get motor area. This is sensory. Temporal and parietal lobes are the dominant hemisphere. This is last choice is non-dominant. So this is the correct answer. Frontal parietal is this is not the place here. Prefrontal is motor. This is not the one. These two are wrong. Even this is wrong because non-dominant hemisphere. The correct answer is posterior temporal and parietal lobes. That is at the junction of temporal. This is where here now this junction here. This is Wernicke's area. This is temporal lobe. Okay. The correct answer is this. Fluent aphasia. So there is a problem with fluency. With a preserved comprehension and impaired repetition is what? So the fluent speech is there, comprehension is both, repetition is a fault. State answer what?
Conduction.
Conduction aphasia. Very good. Conduction aphasia. Which of the following speech indicates damage to the categorical hemisphere? Normal speech. So normal speech means no disease. Forget about it now. Damage is there now. We're not discussing about it now. Increased speech. This is looks like a delirious patient. Or decreased speech, where you get decreased speech, and this it could be because of patient may having problems of the consciousness level, coma. So many things are there. This could be delirium. This could be. It could be. Not necessarily. It can. Even in aphasia, you can get those. But decreased speech can be in patients of coma, decreased level of consciousness. That also can be there now. But there's a damage to categorical hemisphere. That is dominant hemisphere will cause senseless fluent speech. Yeah, this is more likely. So this is a disease of language. These two are diseases of many things. It could be what? Level of consciousness. Many things will come. So when you are talking about categorical hemisphere discussion, you should pick up this. Now, what is categorical hemisphere and repulsive hemisphere? This is more often this is on the left side. That is 80% of right-handed and 60% of left-handed. This is opposite of it. Okay, it's the opposite lobe. So there is sequential analytical process here. Mathematical calculation, logical decision happen on the dominant hemisphere. So mathematics and logic, both go together. You can take it that way, and they are on the dominant hemisphere. So language and now you can remember like this. These people are good at mathematics and language subject. These people probably like social science. I'll come to that. Emotional and all things come here. So dominant hemisphere the deals with mathematics and languages, non-dominant other subjects. Correct? Logic, mathematics and language, they are on dominant hemisphere. So other subjects are on opposite side. So the orientation, physiospatial orientation, like geography. To identify familiar object by touch, smell, sight, taste, feel, they are on the non-dominant hemisphere. Analyzing emotional context of the person. These things, whether the opposite person is angry with me or happy with me or is appreciating me or disliking me, those things are done in that on this sphere, non-dominant sphere. So you remember these two on the dominant mathematics and language subject, logic, mathematics, language subject on the dominant hemisphere. Other subjects are in other side. They're not subjects. I'm giving a mnemonic so that you can remember. in exams. Okay. 8-year-old chronic alcoholic was diagnosed with atrial fibrillation. So now you got a patient who is 8 years old. He's a chronic alcoholic. He was diagnosed to have atrial fibrillation. A patient of atrial fibrillation is there. What are the things you think? Problems he can have? He can have heart problems, failure. Then what I'm writing? Embolism. So that's why we advise them anticoagulants, na? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So a patient is an 8-year-old, and above that, age itself will cause increase the risk of atrial fibrillation. And above that is a chronic alcoholic. Further, he is prone to develop atrial fibrillation. So he has developed atrial fibrillation in this case. He was diagnosed with this since 5 years. Since long time he is having already. His son describes stepwise decline in his father's overall memory over these years. Since last 5 years, he is developing decrease in memory. That is especially short-term memory. On examination, he is having pseudobulbar effect. What is pseudobulbar effect? Emotionally, they can be very angry
of the
that.
night event.
Yeah, and brisk DTR both in upper and even with jaw jerk. Jaw
Deep
jerk
tenderness.
is brisk in pseudobulbar palsy, whereas bulbar it is not brisk. Okay, I mean, above the midbrain, above the medulla, if there is a lesion, it can be brisk, but pseudobulbar palsy, it is. So, what is the cranial nerve supplying the muscles of mastication? Trigeminal nerve.
Yes, sir.
I have discussed. That's why I am asking you to repeat.
Yes, sir. Also.
So this is midbrain. This is pons. This is medulla. So trigeminal nerve extends from here till down here, and in pons both the sensory and motor nucleus is there. You should remember. So the pseudobulbar palsy, it is above this. Okay, above this. Okay, above this. Jaw jerk is by trigeminal. So brisk DTR of the left upper extremity and upgoing plantar. Again, sign of pyramid. Left. What is the diagnosis now? So here is telling quadraparesis. May not be so severe, but mild. With the UMN signs of bilaterally. And there is a pseudobulbar. So that means that it is not the disease of spinal cord. It is disease is the brain. Even if there is cervical disease, there can be. He has not told about a jaw jerk. Jaw jerk, only upper limb and lower limb is telling. Even spinal cord transaction or a disease at the level of cervix above C5. If it is there, they can have what? Bilateral what? Spinal cord compression. They can have bilateral quadraparesis with upflowing plantar bilaterally and DTR. Okay. Now, because this patient has also got pseudobulbar effect, now you have to push your lesion into the brain. Okay.
Yes,
okay. And above that, he has other components of memory. So definitely you have to go into the brain, not into the spine. So the disease, where is the disease now? They're asking.
Multi-infract dementia.
What? Tell me.
Multi-infract dementia.
Now, what is Binswanger's disease? It is a white matter disease. Of course, vasculopathy is there, but not embolic. Like in multi-infarct disease, the multiple embolism will be there. Binswanger's is a not multiple embolism. It is white matter disease. So this chronic alcoholic has got a multiple embolus being thrown into the brain, because of a atrial fibrillation. These patients are prone to throw embolus, so they will develop this, and this is unlikely. Although this is also both vascular. I'll come to this vascular dementias of this This is more common with hypertension. Huh? So causing a disease there deep down in the white matter only. Hmm? Huh? Due to changes in the blood-brain barrier, other things that will be the etiology of Bismarck's disease, where of course it's a vascular dementia. These are the vascular dementia. Here pathogenesis is hypertension induced vasculopathy leading to white matter disease. Here it is embolus, multiple emboli being thrown over a span of many times. It can that will cause multi-infarct dementia. Now, what is Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's disease, it starts a bit early, not at this age. 80 years is too long, too late. It's a bit early it starts. Okay. And there's a classical complaint is there in atrial fibrillation, chronic alcoholic. These are all the predisposition for. And actually, the more in aged elderly, the most common cause of dementia is vascular. Huh? But otherwise, it can be Alzheimer's. But in elderly, if you take, this is the cause, vascular dementia. That is the cause, most common. But Alzheimer's is much more common when you take everybody into consideration. Okay. So, what about the vitamin B12 dementia?
Vernix.
Vitamin B12 dementia. Yeah. What are the myelopathy
Peripheral
signs of? Yeah, they can have peripheral neuropathy. What are the spinal cord manifestation of vitamin B12 deficiency? They have sensory and motor.
Subacute degeneration.
Which spinothalamic tract, spinocerebellar tract? We'll read about this. What type of spinal myelopathy they have vitamin B12 deficiency? These are all frequent questions. They will ask you this. What type of myelopathy do they get? Myelopathy means what? First of all, myelopathy means disease problem of the spinal cord, man. Vitamin B12 deficiency causes what? Involvement of spinothalamic tract. What sort of sensory ataxia they have? What is sensory ataxia? What is cerebellar ataxia? I not yet discussed ataxia. I will discuss in next class. You try to read this, Anyway, next class I'll be dealing with these things. What about sensory ataxia, cerebellar ataxia? Those things I'll discuss. And have a orientation about this. Yeah. Okay. So this is a case of multiple infarct dementia. They will ask questions on that. Romberg sign. They will ask about cerebellar ataxia. When they close the eyes, the ataxia increases. Whereas in cerebellar ataxia, without closing eyes, the patient is ataxic. Okay, I'll come to that when I discuss about ataxia. Now let us go to dementia introduction. In dementia, it is defined as acquired deterioration of cognitive abilities that impair successful performance of activities of daily living. So here, the patient mental retardation is also there. It is to begin with, they are having problem. In dementia means they were normal, then they become ended up with the problem like that. So dementia is acquired, not congenital. Mental retardation is what? Yeah, congenital. May erode other mental faculties like language, vasospatial, apraxias, calculation, judgment, problem solving. These things can be there. Roosevelt, the discussion was who is Roosevelt? World War II. Who was the president of America during Roosevelt? Roosevelt. Huh? Roosevelt was a this one, president of America, huh? And Churchill was a prime minister in UK during World War II, and he had a severe hypertension, and he was not having not actually those days that was considered as treating hypertension was not required, especially systolic, huh? So probably he had this dementia, and that's why he was responsible for all that havoc of Second World War. That is partly. Roosevelt was suffering from severe hypertension, and he was old, a very old man. So why I'm telling about this dementia is vascular is it is very common in old people. Hmm? It is very common. Huh? Around 70% of the people in the old age they will have some amount of uh, uh, hypertension induced vascular dementia will be there. Hmm? Hmm? That's the reason, especially who are suffering from hypertension. Hmm? So that's why old prime ministers, old they are thinking about what age bar for politicians. This is the reason we need age bar. There should be there. Retirement for politicians also is needed because of these things. Hmm. Okay, neuropsychiatric and social defects. Huh? Depression, apathy, anxiety, all things can be there. Huh? Huh? They will have. So sometimes the patient of dementia may more often they'll end up in psychiatric ward. Huh? Okay, many times psychiatrists actually most of the dementia patients are properly treated by psychiatrists because they have these problems. Huh? They are treated there. They are properly. In fact, these components need to be treated. Probably will not be able to get up the do anything good for the memory and other part. At least this causes social issues. Na? They have to be treated better at psychiatric wards. Hmm? Although it is a neurological problem, other neuropsychiatric. Yeah, put it here. See, it is a neuropsychiatric disease. Hmm? Vascular dementia. Now, welcome to vascular dementia. There are many types of dementia. I will be discussing in this vascular dementia a bit. Defects in cognition behavior along with the spectrum of severity. I'll show that all the spectrum of severity is there. How the vascular dementia is there. The mechanisms are micro or macro infarct, big infarct. See, actually, a patient who has developed a severe cerebral vascular accident, around 30% of them will have some amount of cognitive problems. A patient who has developed a severe cerebral vascular accident, although they may improve their power, paralysis may improve, but 30% of them will have some amount of dementia. They will end up. That is vascular. That's why macro infarct and both macro multi infarct, macro one shot they can have in a right place. Bleeds also similarly, micro and large bleeds. Huh? Hmm? Chronic progressive white matter degeneration can be there. Altered cerebral, this all. See, when there is a vasculopathy, hypertension, cerebral hemodynamics will be there. There will be hyperperfusion. For example, small penetrating vessels, there will be blocks. That could cause hyperperfusion. And further, there is a dysfunction of the blood-brain barrier. And and there is autoregulation in the brain due to hypertension. This will be disrupted. All these things will cause damage to the brain and induce dementia progressively or acutely sometimes. So, what are the risk factors? I told 70 years. Remember Roosevelt. Hmm? Huh? 70% of the 70 years can have some amount of hypertension disease and some amount of dementia like that. Chronic hypertension, hyperlipidemia, diabetes, smoking, if they are there, these chances are there. Hmm? Hmm? What is mini mental no, that is not required. Forget about it. Smoking, atrial fibrillation, heart failure, all these things can cause vascular dementia. Risk factors. So vascular dementia can be very mild, and it will be severe dementia like this. Mild vascular cognitive impairment. It will be very mild. Due to and vascular dementia can happen due to strategic impact. In fact, huh? Vascular dementia, lacunar lesions also. Huh? Dementia, hemorrhagic lesions also can be Biswanger disease, subcortical. That could be mixed. Alzheimer's disease and vascular dementia, both of them can be mixed. They can get mixed. Hmm? Cognitive disorder, same thing. Now, which of the following is locked in state? What is locked in state? Tell me what is locked in state. Do you know what is locked in state? So locked in patient will,
Vertical
tell
gaze.
me, huh?
Vertical gaze.
Now what is locked in state? A typical patient of locked in state, how he will be? He will be brought on a stretcher. He will be sleeping. He will not be moving any of his limbs. Neither he can put out any expressions except he can open the eyes, look, but laterally he cannot run the eyeballs, but he can lift the upper eyelid, close it, lift it, and eyeballs he can move up and down. That's all. You got it? How the patient, imagine. Sometimes you think that this guy is acting, malingering. You may get confused because a patient who is just sleeping, not putting out any expression on the face, that is because of seventh nerve palsy bilaterally. He cannot put any expression on the face, and he cannot look sideways. You are standing by the side of him, you are making sounds, he cannot look at you. He'll still look straight or up and down. You may think that this guy is acting. That's a feeling you may get. Correct? Malingering patient. You may think. So that is a kind of a patient who are locked in state patient. Of course, it's a pathological. They'll not be acting. It's a disease in the pons, anterior pons, upper anterior pons, disease of the basilar artery. It can cause that. Locked in state. You could imagine that patient? All of you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. These patients cannot put words. Phonation is gone. Diaphragmatic function is intact. They can breathe because diaphragmatic respiratory center is bit down. Vertical gauge is gone. Preserved, sorry. Vertical gauge is preserved, but horizontal gauge is gone. Horizontal gauge is gone. Okay. So these patients, this is horizontal gaze gone. Which of the following is in vertical gaze? Is which of the following is preserved? In fact, it should be preserved. Question should have been like this. In locked state. Horizontal gaze is gone. Vertical gaze is preserved. Phonation is gone. Diaphragmatic function is preserved actually. Okay. Vertical gaze is this is also gone. Sorry. This is also gone. Diaphragmatic function is gone. Gone. Vertical gaze is there. They allow thoracic abdominal type of breathing. Now, this is pons. I shown this picture last. The upper part, cross section. So here, these are the cortical spinal tracts, and you can see cortical spinal tract. Here, the basilar artery comes here, and if it is having a disease, it supplies this. So the infarct will be there in the anterior pons here. Okay. Okay. That's why. So the disease will be in the what? 7th nerve and 6th nerve are gone. They will be having a disease. Sometimes corticospinal tracts of these nerves will be involved. And corticospinal tracts of below nerves, all nerves, 6th, 7th, 9th, 10th, 12th, all are involved here. Corticobulbar tracts, corticobulbar tracts of 9th, 10th, 12th are damaged, and there is a quadraparalysis. Quadraparalysis pyramidal, that is because corticospinal tracts which come which go in the pons anteriorly, they are damaged. So you get corner paralysis. This is due to basilar artery. Artery spelling I got wrong. This is dysgraphia. Wrong spelling. Hmm? Basilar artery damage upper and anterior pons. That is due to the cause. Hmm? Same thing. It can be due to trauma or hemorrhage, myeloid, pontine, myelinolysis, encephalitis, all these things. If they involve the anterior pons, they can present with locked in state. Bilateral cortical tract damage, horizontal gaze is gone, sound or bilateral, sound or palsy. So, facial diplegia, no expressions. Because of this, bilateral corticobulbar damage and causing issue with the 9th, 10th, 12th, leading to aphonia and tongue paralysis. They can't talk. All of the following will reduce the risk of atherothrombotic stroke, except
Rivaroxaban.
see, atherothrombotic, it is the thing is, it is similar to coronary disease.
Yes, sir.
What is called? Yeah. Now, treatment of atherothrombotic stroke is similar to coronary disease. Do you give what is rivaroxaban?
Anticoagulants.
Yeah, anticoagulant. Do you give anticoagulant in a coronary disease?
No, sir.
No. Of course, the stroke is due to atrial fibrillation or clot in the left ventricle. Then you are supposed to give this. Okay. And if the stroke is due to carotid artery stenosis, there's a plaque there. And those plaques are causing thrombotic and embolism. Then you need not give anticoagulant. So embolic stroke, which is most common is atrial fibrillation, left atrium, left ventricle clot there. Then this is fine. But here discussion is on atherothrombotic stroke, which is due to carotid artery plaque. See, this is a vessel. Here you got a atherosclerotic plaque. This atherosclerotic plaque, what will happen? The endothelium which is covering here, it may get fissured out and it forms a thrombus on that. Very similar pathology you see in ischemic heart disease or STEMI, all that thing. Similar pathology is seen in atherosclerotic strokes also. Actually, which is a very common type of stroke, ischemic stroke. Okay. And so the treatment would be control the blood pressure, give statins, that is to stabilize this plaque. Okay. And also to reduce the cholesterol level, regression of plaque, atherosclerotic plaque. Statins are given, control blood pressure, that will reduce the chance of fissuring this endothelium, and give aspirin to prevent thrombus formation. So treatment are this, but not this. This is case of embolic stroke due to atrial fibrillation. Okay, and okay, this is that. Okay, that is basically non-valvular AF. If you got a mitral stenosis and if that is causing atrial fibrillation, then these newer anticoagulants are not used. We would go for our age-old acetrom and dicamerol or warfarin. Warfarin and acetrom are given in a patient with atrial fibrillation with mitral stenosis or valve replacement. With or without valve replacement. Whereas these newer anticoagulants are given in a patients who have a normal heart. Otherwise, normal heart. Apart from atrial fibrillation, it doesn't have any structural disease of the heart. Then you can give newer anticoagulants. Got it? So, embolic stroke, this is fine. But non-embolic atherosclerotic stroke, this should not be given. These three should be given. You understood? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Same thing I written here. Same thing. Any doubts you have? Any doubts? And Dr. Meena Wari wanted to introduce herself. She'll be starting pediatric classes very shortly. You wanted to discuss So